Hey guys, my name is Natasha Demore, and this is episode 3 of Internet Kids, a podcast where I interview my friends about fandoms that we love. And this is episode 3, which is pretty impressive if I do say so myself, because that means I've actually continued this podcast for not 2, but 3 months. And this episode is about Avatar. Not Avatar the Blue People, Avatar the Last Airbender, which is one of the best, if not the best, cartoon ever made, in my opinion. And my special guest for this week, in case you haven't listened to the previous episodes and you don't know what this is all about, I get a friend and I interview them, and this friend is Lenny. Say hi, Lenny.
Hi, hello.
She's also my cousin, so she's like a special bonus friend.
Oh, well, thank you.
And she's also my roommate now. She wasn't before, but she recently moved in. So she's like my friend,
Triple
my
threat.
roommate, and yeah, exactly, triple threat. And because she's my roommate, she's actually in the room with me instead of over Skype, like in the previous 2 conversations. So I'm hoping that means that the audio is better in this podcast than in the previous ones, because we're actually both talking into a real microphone in person, which I think is pretty impressive.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a bonus.
Yes, you get the special good sounding episode. So yes, we both love Avatar: The Last Airbender. We have a few questions on here that I'm going to go through as like talking points, but if we like start talking,
I'm sure we will.
Yeah, and just like start talking about something, we totally will get off track, and we don't have to go through all the questions. They're just so we don't run out of things to say.
Okay.
So, in my opinion, the most important question when talking about any fandom is clearly, who is your favorite character?
It's Katara. It's definitely 100%,
Wow, really?
100% Katara.
Nice. Oh,
Yes.
just before we get any further, warning, this is going to be full of spoilers.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking about everything about Avatar. We're going to spoil things. So if you have not watched Avatar: The Last Airbender, watch it before you listen to this, or listen to this knowing that you'll get stuff spoiled for you.
Yeah.
But Katara, I didn't know Katara was your favorite character. Tell me about Katara and why you love her so much.
I love her so much. If you don't know, Katara is one of the main characters. I guess you could argue she's the main character, as the episode kind of opens on her, but
I guess so. I think I would
We'll get
consider
into
Aang
that.
the main character,
Yeah.
but
I
both,
mean,
maybe both.
can make the argument.
Yeah.
I think she should be. I like her a lot because she's a very sort of girly, traditionally feminine character who has all these wonderful, strong characteristics and a really interesting personality and amazing strength. She's basically a master waterbender. She's one of the most badass, tough characters in the whole show, and she loves to do her makeup and go to the spa, and that's things that I really like to do. So I like to see that a girly character is kind of seen as very cool and strong.
That's cool. That's interesting because I don't dislike Katara, but I think if I had to say my least favorite out of the main cast, it would be Katara. Just because she doesn't appeal to me as much, because I don't know, just like she's not the type of character that I prefer. Like I really like goofy characters who are kind of comic relief, and she's like the least comic relief. And like I don't consider myself very girly, so it's like she's not relatable to me.
She hits kind of all my points.
Yeah, but like I don't dislike her. I certainly don't.
They're all good characters.
I like Sokka is definitely my favorite of all time. He's like my type of character, the like comic relief character who's like kind of the underdog, but like is kind of like masks their insecurities by like making fun of themselves and making fun of everything, and then kind of like feels like they're not contributing to the team, but everyone's like, no, you really are, but like they don't see it because they feel like an underdog. Like I love him so
such a good
much.
They're all such good characters.
And then Toph is the female character who really appeals to me, because I hate that there's so few female characters in media that are not girly at all.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, there's lots of girls who don't. Like, I totally like that there are characters who do, like, do their makeup and go to the spa and are cool. But, like, there's such a lack of female characters that are gross and aggressive and not very nice all the time and don't care about looking pretty and having personal hygiene and whatever. Like, I feel like we don't get enough female characters like
I
that.
think she's great for that.
And Toph is that, and that really, like, appeals to me. But I appreciate that they have both, because Toph and Katara are both really good female characters, which the Avatar franchise, both Avatar: The Last Airbender and Legend of Korra. We'll talk about Legend of Korra a little bit. We're mostly talking about Avatar. But oh my god, I love Korra. But yeah, it's interesting that Katara still will get a really good range of opinions and things, because Katara is not my... But again, I don't dislike her. Yeah. Just I like the other characters more. That's cool. So... Question number 2. When and how did you get into Avatar?
You.
Me? Really?
You showed me
it. Oh, yeah.
Well, yes and no. You showed me when I was 13, but when I was 11, I was in Oregon with my family and our family friends, and we turned on the TV. I was 11. My brother was 9. Our family friends, I guess, were 12 and 10. There's one in between us. And we were just kind of looking around for shows to watch, and our parents were like, oh, you can't watch that scary movie. I don't know what it was. It had lots of explosions. Yes. So we picked this random cartoon, and our parents were like, that's a cartoon. You watch that. We're going to make dinner. And we were like, okay. And it happened to be the very last episode of Avatar.
Oh, right. I remember you saying that you'd seen the last episode.
But all I remember is kind of coming in that really, really big dramatic fight between Katara and Azula. And I was just like, oh, this is cool. And then when I went back and watched it again, as, you know, actually watching the last episode of a show, I was kind of like, this is very familiar.
You didn't remember seeing it before?
No, I just remember watching it and being like, what's this? And then, kind of figuring it out later, remembering that I'd gone to Oregon and watched this and being like, oh, hey, wait a minute.
That's interesting that you didn't remember that you'd seen it. That's cool, though. I do remember how I got into Avatar. I watched How to Train Your Dragon, which is my favorite movie of all time, and then I Googled it because I was like, I have to get more. Like, what can I just read about it on the internet? I found tvtropes.com because of that. Then I started reading just random pages on TV Tropes, which is one of the best websites of all time.
I'm glad you can lose yourself on there.
Oh, I have lost many an hour. Like, not so much now, but when I was younger, I spent days just reading TV Tropes. And so Avatar was like on a lot of the pages because it's a popular cartoon.
Like 6 pages.
It's so much, So I was like, it sounds cool. I want to watch it. So back in the day when Mega Video was a thing,
God.
me and my brother watched all of Avatar: The Last Airbender on Mega Video.
Me and my brother did. We watched our 72 minutes, then we'd stop for 54 minutes, and then we'd watch our 72 minutes and on and on and on.
Yep, exactly.
Oh, it's nostalgic now.
The memories. Remember Mega Video. So that's how I watched it, just because I saw it on TV Tropes.
When did How to Train Your Dragon come out?
2010. The first How to Train Your Dragon came out in 2010.
What?
Yep, the first How to Train Your Dragon came out in 2010, the second one came out in 2014, and the last one's coming out in 2018. There's 4 years between each movie. Yes, I know, it's very painful as someone who cares more about How to Train Your Dragon than any other movie of all time. The fact that I have to wait for 4 years between each movie is very painful. But I'll do another podcast about How to Train Your Dragon. But yes, that's how I found out about it. It's cool, because I remember when we were younger, so me and my brother had watched it, and you were visiting, we were at our grandparents' house,
and you told us about it.
We were like, you should watch the show, it's super good. And then you did.
And we did.
And it's the best show of all time.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess maybe we should have done a quick plot summary.
Oh, let's do that. We can stick that at the beginning.
Okay, what is the quick plot summary of Avatar: The Last Airbender? Lenny, go.
Well, there are 4 elemental nations, 1 nation for each of the 4 elements.
Which is?
Water, earth, air, and fire. And 100 years before the start of the show, the Fire Nation started a war with the other 3 nations. And ended up taking over the air nomad tribes.
And just, like, murdering all of them. Like, genocide.
Everybody.
Like, everyone in the air tribes died.
And the reason for this was because of the Avatar, which is this, I guess you could say, soul or spirit.
Yeah.
That kind of gets reincarnated.
I mean, it's based on the Dalai Lama. So the idea of it being reincarnated in, like, sort of a religious, spiritual figure.
Yeah, it's more just... This one person keeps reincarnating throughout the ages as this avatar figure. And in the show, each of the nations has something called bending, which is basically control over the elements. And the avatar can control or bend all 4 of these elements. So they're a very powerful figure. They have a lot of just raw, genuine elemental power, but also a lot of political power. And sort of, they're considered to be a bit of a world leader and this really, really influential figure. So the Fire Nation's goal was basically to wipe out the Avatar and get rid of also this power source, but also this sort of, I guess you could say, not really a figurehead.
Just like very important leader.
This very important
in the
leader
world,
and powerful person. Yes, and the Fire Nation tried to wipe them out, but failed because the Avatar Aang, was only 12 years old and was told that he had this massive power and this huge political influence. And in a time of political unrest and uncertainty, and he was 12 and kind of panicked and
as
thought,
you would.
No thank you. So he took his flying bison, who is named Appa, who is lovely.
Oh, he's like so good. Avatar does animal characters better than any other show I've watched.
They
Most
have
shows,
such distinct personalities.
yeah, most shows when they have an animal sidekick character, they're like annoying because they're either like not well developed or they're like trying to give them personality, but they're just annoying.
Yeah,
the animal characters in Avatar are
they're
so good. They have such good personalities, but they still feel like real animals, and they're not annoying. Oh, they're so good. Anyways,
so
sorry.
he takes Appa, flying bison,
yeah,
and he flees. Basically, is kind of freaking out, just kind of leaves, doesn't really know what he's doing, and ends up in this really terrible storm, and ends up in the water. And the Avatar spirit, his sort of powers, kind of awaken in him. And without him really noticing or knowing what he's doing, he seals himself in ice to kind of protect himself. And this iceberg, I guess, sinks or floats away. And this iceberg is lost for 100 years. And because he's not around, the Fire Nation ends up conquering the air nomads, pretty much decimating the Southern Water Tribe and pretty heavily hitting the Northern Water Tribe, kind of getting into this really long, continuous war with the Earth Kingdom, but they're the best off.
They're also like the largest,
so
they can't. They're harder to take over.
But basically, the Fire Nation destroys the world. Kind of tries to take over the whole world.
That's the point. Yeah.
Except for at the start of the show, when Katara and her brother Sokka, our two favorite characters,
the best characters.
The best two characters. They're out basically just on a routine fishing trip. They live in the Southern Water Tribe, and they stumble across this weird iceberg. And guess what? Guess whose weird iceberg it is. So they find Aang and they find Appa and they befriend him and end up going on this journey with him to learn all 4 types of bending and become the Avatar proper.
To defeat the Fire Nation, to save the world.
Yes.
That was a very extensive explanation, but that's good.
I got into it.
Yeah, it's very good.
I mean, we can just give the little blurb from the front of the show.
I think this is good. The other thing that's cool about it is that each of the 4 nations is based on like real cultures. Like loosely, and I'm sure it's like inspired by multiple things, but essentially the air nomads are based on like Tibet and Nepal, like monks. The Water Tribe is based on like the Inuit northern natives. What are the other 2? The Earth Kingdom is based on like China and like Chinese culture,
a little bit
and then
Korea, I think
maybe a bit of Korea, and then the Fire Nation is based on like Japan and Japanese culture. So it's like they're based on like these real cultures, like just the aesthetics and the culture and the society and like all of that, which is really really cool, and interesting, and it's just a really beautiful show. Like it just looks amazing. The music is incredible. The character designs are just like everything about it is like so visually and like sound wise, like everything about it is beautiful. It's a work of art.
It's really set apart in that it's like a fantasy world, like very traditional high fantasy, essentially a magic world, but it's not based on like a Western civilization. Yeah. So it's something that could have been, I guess, a little bit stale or kind of done like a destined chosen one, but it has that just unique spin, and it kind of just, I don't know, it feels like such a unique and original world.
Yeah, it's very unique and very good. So it's 3 seasons, and each season is something like, I don't know, 12
or 20
more like 20 episodes. Yeah,
I think it's 20.
Oh, it could be. It's been a while since I watched them, but yeah. So it's not crazy long, but it's like it's decent, and there's like a very continuous plot. Like it's not a monster of the week kind of like watch them out of order. Yeah. It's very much a plot. You watch in order. It has a very satisfying conclusion. Yeah. The series finale is gorgeous. Oh, it's a 4-part series finale, and it is the most emotionally satisfying series finale of anything ever. It's so good.
It's so good.
Just the show is a work of art. Yeah. Speaking of works of art, my next question is, what is your favorite part of this work of art? Like whether like a favorite episode or a favorite season or a favorite moment, like just a part. What's your favorite part?
Oh, my favorite part. In terms of episode, my favorite episode is the Southern Raiders.
Okay, you're gonna have to remind me what happens.
That is the episode when Katara and Zuko hunt down Katara's mother's killer.
Oh, yeah, that's a good episode.
It's not a very happy episode.
No, but it is satisfying.
It's very satisfying. It's a very sort of complex moral episode. It's they kind of just operate in a gray area throughout the whole episode.
Yeah. There's a lot of exploration of morality and what it means like to be right or wrong and gray more, like this show really
what it means to forgive somebody. And if you this episode, the whole theme is forgiveness, and it's basically Katara realizing she doesn't have to forgive her mother's killer, but she has to come to her own sort of understanding of her mother's death, I guess, and sort of deal with it in her own way, which she's my favorite character, so that's kind of why I like it. It's like her emotional sort of conclusion to the whole show.
Yeah. That's true.
Oh god, I just like everything.
I know.
It's a really funny show too.
It is.
Like it's a lot of really serious parts, like we just talked about.
Yeah.
Really serious
that's a really serious episode.
But a lot of the episodes are just really lighthearted and fun.
That's it does my favorite thing, and the thing that like any show or book or whatever that I really love does this, and I've mentioned it in other podcasts and videos, but when something is both funny and serious. I don't like shows and books and things that are just humorous with no underlying depth, and I don't like things that are so gritty and serious that they don't know how to have fun. But when a story can be very funny and very entertaining and very weird and creative, but also be very serious and have a lot of emotional depth, that's like hitting the nail on the head, and Avatar does it so good. Because it's so funny. It's a bunch of kids who are just weird and fun, and there's lots of jokes, but it also will make you want to cry.
It will make you cry.
And explore really deep issues of like morality and right and wrong and war, and like the whole third season happens in the Fire Nation, and there's a lot of exploration of like, just because the leaders of this country are doing bad things, it doesn't mean every random citizen of the Fire Nation is a bad person. Which is really like a good thing.
Especially since it's, I mean, a lot of older people watch it, but it is a kid's show. It's marketed towards like middle schoolers. That's a really good message.
Very good thing. There's a lot of good messages in it. I guess if I had to pick my favorite part, I think it would be the series finale, because I think it's such a good series finale. And particularly the fight between Zuko and Azula. The fight between Aang and the Fire Lord is like, the big fight at the end, and it's very, very, very pretty and good. But the emotional depth of Zuko versus Azula?
The music they added.
Oh my god.
It's just like, you probably have seen this or heard of this fight at some point. But
if you're listening to this,
probably. But the music is like really deep, sort of heart-wrenching cello music over this fight, this horrible fight between two siblings.
Oh my god. And Azula just like literally losing her mind.
Her mind.
It is the conclusion of her character arc throughout the whole series, that she has just been like breaking down, and she just loses it in this fight, and it is so emotional.
It's really emotional.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, it's good because they could have just done like a straight villain versus good guy fight, but no, they didn't.
It's so much more complex. So good. So I love the whole thing, and like my favorite funny episodes, like I really love the one where they're like, I guess the one they're lost in the desert is also kind of serious because he loses Appa and it's very emotional, but there's like really funny stuff that happens in the desert too, with like the freaking cactus juice and stuff. And I also really love the episode where Sokka trains with like the sword master guy, because Sokka's my favorite character, and it's like a good episode for him. And I really like the episode where they meet Toph, because I love Toph.
I love Toph.
And I love the episode where Zuko joins the gang and he's got his like awkward
he's talking to the frog.
Hi, my name is Zuko.
He sits there and rehearses what he's going to say to a frog.
Oh, it's really
that's
good.
Something I would do.
He's so cute.
He's so good. Should we talk about the characters? Because we're mentioning them, and we haven't like broken down who's who.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I'm assuming anyone listening to this kind of knows already, but like, just kind of our opinions of the characters and like who we like and stuff. We said Katara is kind of the main character because she like introduces the show, but Aang is like the one who's like saving the world, so they're both arguably the main characters. And then Sokka is like a very important main character. He's Katara's brother, and like the original three who start this adventure is Sokka, Katara, and Aang. And Sokka has a really good, even like in the first season, his like kind of character arc is like he's kind of a misogynist, because the whole thing is he grew up in this water tribe that is very like old fashioned. I guess the southern, cause they're from the southern water tribe, and they actually did let women bend, but in they're from the they're from the south. And the northern one is even more old-fashioned, and they're like, women can only be healers and men can only be warriors. But so just the whole water tribe does sort of have this, like, very women do this and men do this kind of thing. And at the beginning, Sokka's kind of like, go do your girl stuff, Katara. Like, whatever, girls can't do this. And very much learns that that's not true. Especially with Suki. I almost forgot about Suki.
Yes, I love her.
Suki is like Sokka's girlfriend, I guess, later in the series. When they first meet, she's part of this like all girl warrior tribe thing.
I don't want to say cult. That's super not what it is.
Not a cult, but
Not
like
cult.
a group. I don't know.
Well, they're kind of. I guess they're kind of famous on the island she's from. They're like
the Kyoshi Warriors. So they're a group of warriors who are modeled, who basically follow after a previous avatar named Kyoshi, who sort of inspired them to be these warriors. And he like trains with them a little bit and learns like, wow, you guys are great. I was a dick. And he also has a lot of character development in his, because he's not a bender, and almost all of the other main characters are benders. Which in this world, like, there's a lot of people who aren't benders, but like, especially in a group of benders who are like all warriors, and he can like throw a boomerang. Like, he doesn't feel like he like deserves to be part of this, and like, and he's very like, he's sort of the comic relief too, so he like makes a lot of jokes and whatever, but like he has a lot of self-worth issues, which I really is a character trait that it really appeals to me. So and he has a lot of like realizing that he has value just because he's not a bender, and he's a good warrior, and he's a good strategist, and
great strategist,
whatever, which I really love.
He kind of, each season he kind of has an arc that's about, I guess, not overcoming something about himself, but kind of learning something new about himself and kind of embracing it and kind of having a personal growth journey, whereas everybody else kind of has these like, they're learning a new style of bending, or they're becoming more moral. Sokka's are more like becoming, I guess, the best he can be.
Yeah.
That's sort of his arc.
I love
the whole
him so
show is
much.
just becoming a really good person.
He's so
good.
good.
Oh.
You can. Do you have any other Katara thoughts?
I mean, I just love her.
Yeah.
I talked all about it. I think she's great.
Yeah.
I just love her. I like that she's kind of angry as well. Like, I would say her flaw is she has a really bad temper.
Yeah.
I don't know. That just kind of appeals to me. Mm-hmm. But I mean,
rightfully so. And the other thing that's really interesting about Katara and Sokka is they have essentially the same backstory, because they are siblings, and they both lost their mother to the Fire Nation when they were very young, and then their father went away to fight and has not been back for a long time. And so, but they have very different reactions to it. Like, Katara is very, very angry about it and like wants to get revenge, whereas like Sokka didn't have that side of it, but I feel like it still like affected him. I feel like she was kind of personally hurt more by their mother dying, but Sokka kind of took responsibility for it and kind of felt that he had to. I mean, Katara stepped up to kind of do practical mothering chores, like she learned how to cook and clean, but Sokka kind of became, especially when their dad left, like a really dad figure, I guess. I think he kind of internalized it a lot more. Like, Katara was like, I gotta fight, and he kind of went, I don't know, more internalized. Yeah. And it is, because the episode you were talking about, it's either that episode or the episode before, but where she goes to find their mother killer, they talk about it, and he's like, basically like, you can't be so angry about it. Like, she was my mom too, but I've moved on and you haven't. And it's just really interesting to see like two characters struggling with affected by the same thing, the same backstory, but handling it differently. And that's just gives really good depth of character. It just shows that this show develops characters really interesting in really good ways, that they have different reactions to the same backstory. It's really realistic too. It's so good. So but there are other characters of the Sokka, like he's the avatar. So like the main character essentially who I also adore, we haven't really mentioned him yet, but I love him, is Aang. Like we said, he's the avatar. He's such a good character because he really embodies that thing that I was saying, where very lighthearted and fun, very serious and dark. He's very much like a jokester. Like, he's like 12, and he's just a fun kid. He's very lighthearted, and he likes having fun, and he comes from this like society of monks who were very spiritual, but also very about joy and bringing like happiness to the world, and traveling the world, and making friends, and like all of this nice stuff. And he's a very happy kid. But also his entire society has been killed. Like, he's literally the sole survivor of a genocide. Which he doesn't even know in the beginning. He doesn't know. He finds out pretty quick, but he kind of hits him hard. But like, speaking of internalizing things, he internalizes things a lot, because he has a lot of bad stuff that happens to him. And he like has so much responsibility on his shoulders at 12. And he just like goes with it, and he just like acts like the world, like that's gotta weigh on you. And season 3 does such a good job of like, for the first 2 seasons, you know, it's like kind of tough, but he's like powering through. And then in the last season, he has like a lot of like breakdowns, because like like, he has the moment where, like, he can't sleep, and he's, like, freaking losing his mind, and, like, he just, like, has, and, like, moments where, like, he's, like, everyone's like, you have to kill the Fire Lord, and he's like, I can't. Like,
that goes against what I believe.
I can't murder someone, and, like, so I think his character just has so much depth to it, and is such a good representation of, like, a kid who is fun and happy, but also in a horrible situation.
Yeah.
I just love him a lot.
He's really good.
He's really
a real good kid.
Good kid. Good kid.
Good kid.
And then there's Toph.
There's Toph.
Who is so cool.
Who's so good. I love her.
Is a tiny little, like, I think she's also 12-ish.
She's 12, I think.
And she's, like, a tiny, short little girl, and she's blind, and she's a badass.
She's so tough.
And she is, like, the best earthbender ever, and they meet her, and she literally... It takes part in, like, essentially, like, WWE earthbending competitions, and, like, beats everyone.
So great!
Because they're like, I'm not gonna fight a little blind girl, and she's like, I'm, like, the best earthbender ever, and just, like, defeats them. She's a badass.
She invents new bending, invents metal bending, just, like, casually, just like, well, you told I couldn't, so I'm gonna.
People are like, you can't bend metal, and she's like, well, I'm going to. And she's so cool, and like I said, she is not a traditionally feminine character.
Yeah.
She's very, like, she's gross, she's loud, she's aggressive, she's, like, all these things that female characters usually don't get to be.
She's so good.
And it makes me so happy. She's so good. She's just, like, one of the best characters.
She's just, she's so larger than life. Just so full of personality, and she just kind of does what she wants, kind of is so happy to just be out in the world, kind of doing her own thing, living her life. She's so great.
She's so good. And because her whole, like, backstory is that her parents are like, you're a little girl and you're blind and you can't do anything, and we're also rich and we don't really want people to know about you because you're an embarrassment because you're, like, a little blind girl, so you're just gonna stay in our house and not do anything. And she's like, screw that. No. I'm not going to stay in the house and do nothing. And then she essentially runs away from home. And, like, I feel like just a lot of the show is about repression, because she
that kind of comes back. Like, she was it writing letters to her parents later on? And they kind of talk to her, like, really treat her like a kid, kind of demean her, and she's kind of torn up about it. Because
it's like, she doesn't really get along with her parents. She's upset that they, like, demean her in such a way, but, like, she still, like, ran away from home and misses her family.
Yeah, she still
and, like,
loves them.
Tries not to acknowledge that, because she's, like, the tough one, right? Like, she's like, I'm tough, I don't care. But, like, she does still care. God, I love her so much.
She's good.
She's so good. Did you know the backstory of that character? I read, like, an interview with the creators. She was gonna be a guy.
And a love interest
for Katara, and, like, a big tough guy.
Yeah, but
they were like, and she was still gonna be blind, and have the whole, like, she sees with bending, but, like, she was gonna be a big tough guy. And then it was a joke that, like, the creators were like, wouldn't it be funnier if she was, like, a little tiny girl? And, like, it became such a joke that they're like, what if we just did that? And they did, and it's like, it still would have been cool if she was this, like, big guy, but, like, the fact that they made her, like, this little girl, it's so good. But they kept her personality of her being this, like, tough badass who doesn't give a shit and is, like, gross and doesn't care. It makes me really happy.
Real good.
So she's really good.
It's good.
Then Zuko! Yeah! Zuko is, like, one of the best characters in anything ever.
He's got the best written arc, probably of all time. I won't go out and say that.
There's
there's never been a better redemption arc, ever.
Oh, there's never...
Sorry if you think there was. There isn't.
There's never been a better villain to hero.
Ever.
He's so good. Do you want to, like, summarize the life of Zuko?
Yeah. Well, his life is shit. His life's real shit. Okay.
Everyone's life is shit in this show.
So he is the Prince of the Fire Nation. He is... I don't think at the beginning he's set to inherit. He basically is first in line for the throne.
Yeah, because he's older.
He's older.
He has a younger sister. Yeah. But his dad hates him.
His dad hates him.
He's too weak and not good at firebending.
He's just a really good kid, basically.
He's just a very soft, gentle kid who doesn't want to be mean and take over the world.
Very nice and soft-spoken as a kid. So his dad hates his guts. His mom really likes him. It's kind of... The mom likes Zuko. The dad likes Azula. It's kind of bad.
It causes problems for both of them. Both of their parents kind of neglected one child and it messed both of them up.
Yeah. But I think when he's about 10 or 11...
Yeah, something like that.
I don't think it's ever really said. He's like 10 or 11.
Yeah, like
his mom disappears under some pretty mysterious circumstances, and he kind of knows by that age that he lives in, like, a pretty corrupt place surrounded by pretty bad people. So he basically goes, okay, my mom's dead.
Yeah.
And his life basically goes downhill from there.
Yes. Technically, his mom isn't dead.
Well, technically
There's
she's
like
not dead,
comics later, but
he doesn't know that. As far as he knows, his mom died horribly.
Yes.
But yeah, then he's 13 years old, and he is in this war strategy meeting with his dad and all the generals of the Fire Nation because he is set to inherit the throne, and he's 13, and he's kind of, learning the ropes.
Yeah.
And one of the generals, I think it's one of the generals, proposes a strategy.
Is it one of the generals or is it his dad? I think it's actually one of the generals, but his dad is just like, you dare speak in my
Yeah, it's somebody important proposes
Someone
a
says
strategy.
something important, yeah.
Where a bunch of new recruits, basically just like...
Our cannon fodder.
Yeah,
like
teenagers
being
basically
yeah.
are going to be sacrificed.
Mm-hmm.
And Zuko is like, no, that's wrong. We're not going to do that. And his dad is like, oh, well, you've brought shame to yourself. You brought shame to this house. You shamed me in my own
war room
place.
Yeah.
So he challenges his 13-year-old son to something called an Agnikai, which is a firebending duel to the death.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, the general does. And the Zuko and the general are going to fight, right? But then it's actually his dad, and he won't fight his dad?
I can't remember.
Is that it?
I think it's just...
Anyway, he won't fight his...
either way, his dad
he won't fight
challenges
his dad.
him, and he won't fight his dad.
So he's basically
he's not
like,
a terrible person.
You know what? I'm not going to fight you in a duel to the death. You're my dad. It's not that important.
Yeah.
And then his dad horribly scars his face with a blast of fire directly to the face, and banishes his son.
Yep.
Basically gives him a boat and a crew, and it's like, you have to find the Avatar, and then...
Or you
until
can't come back.
You can never come back.
And essentially, like, he doesn't expect him to actually find it. It's like, no one's seen the Avatar in 100 years. I want you gone because I already hated you, and now I just have a reason to hate you. So you leave, and I'm assuming you're never going to come back because I'm assuming the Avatar is gone because we haven't seen him in 100 years.
And basically just, I want you dead, but this is more humiliating
Yeah,
for you.
exactly. But then Zuko is like this angry teenager who for a few years now, because when the show starts, he's like 16, so it's been like 3 years. He's been traveling around the world trying to find this Avatar so he can regain the throne and be like, not hated by his father.
His dad to love him again, essentially.
And his whole thing is like, I need to restore my honor. Zuko and honor. It's like almost like a joke in the fandom at this point. But yeah, he's trying to like restore his honor. So he, in the first season, is the bad guy and is trying to capture Aang because he's like, if I capture you, then my dad will love me again and I can be prince. But then as the series goes on, he gets to know Aang and the others better, and like he has this whole sort of redemption arc where he's like realizing that he doesn't actually want this horrible man to like him, and he doesn't want to be like the head of this like horrible colonizing corrupt government, like and eventually by the third season he joins the good guys. It has this adorable scene where he's
wonderful.
Like he's so awkward because he's just this awkward kid who doesn't know how to socialize with people and grew up as this like repressed prince, and then has been angrily traveling the world for 3 years with a crew and his uncle, and then so now he like doesn't know how to interact with people, so he's like trying to make them like him, and he's like practicing talking to a frog. Oh, he's just really cute.
So good. He's just really likable character.
He is an amazingly likable character. They just wrote him so well that you just like grow to love this character who was initially a villain, but like. And it doesn't feel like, sometimes when they do redemption arcs, it feels kind of forced that they're like, this person did terrible things, but it's okay because they have a sad backstory. But it's like Zuko genuinely repented and learned and grew and realized, like, it wasn't just like, bam, he has a sad backstory, we forgive him now. It's like, he had such a complex, like, growing throughout the seasons that by the time he joins the good guys, you feel like he is genuine and deserves it.
I think, isn't his backstory introduced kind of early as well?
Yeah, it is.
So it's not like they introduce this horrible backstory for him to make you feel sorry for him and like him. It's kind of so you know that like, this is what's going on in his life. And really early on, kind of the circumstances to how he ended up on this boat. And I think it's season 2 when you find out about his mom.
Maybe, I can't remember exactly the order, but you definitely learn about the thing where his like dad scarred him and whatever, like in
really
season
early.
1, episode like 3 or 4 or something, like quite early
so
on.
It's not like they just introduced this sad story to make you feel like pity for him, I guess.
No, it's an integral part of his character, and season 2 is interesting because in season 2 he's kind of given up on the hunting the Avatar.
He doesn't see the main gang like at all.
He isn't a member of the crew, like he's having his own whole like side story in season 2
pretty much.
where he's growing and changing and essentially is like living in the Earth Kingdom away from his father.
He basically just kind of gets this own life too. Like if he hadn't been found by Azula at the end of season 2, he probably would have just like lived in Ba Sing Se like for the rest of his life.
He just would have lived in the Earth Kingdom.
He became a waiter and like met a nice girl and like kind of made some friends, like just sort of had his own life. And then I'm just like, oh wait, right. I have other things to do.
And then, gets dragged back into it. But
yeah, he just kind of...
It's really interesting. And then in season 3 for a while, because his sister comes at the end of season 2 and sort of brings him back to the family. I don't exactly remember how that happens because he didn't bring Aang back, but I
think she's like...
Maybe she just convinced the dad to let him come back.
Didn't they think he killed Aang?
Oh,
because Aang got
Aang
shot by
disappears
lightning
for a while.
And they think he's dead, and they're like, oh, Zuko, you killed him. Come on back. We love you again.
Yeah, we love you. So he goes back, and then he has a very, very interesting thing in season 3 where he's with the bad guys, quote unquote, like his sister and his sister's friends, and then like ends up leaving them to join it's just really, it's a very interesting.
He kind of gets everything he wanted at the start of season 3, and then is kind of like, well, this isn't what I actually wanted. This is terrible. You're all terrible people. This is a horrible country. Like, you do shitty things. And then kind of leaves and joins up with the group, the gang, the crew.
The gang.
Squad.
Gang with 2 A's.
I forgot what word that was.
So just the main cast, all the side characters are really good too, but it would take forever to go through all of them.
Yeah.
But the main crew is so good. This show does characters so well. The depth of characters.
I like that it's a very even balance of gender in the characters too. Like in the first season, it's Aang and Sokka and Katara, and it's like 1 girl, 2 guys, kind of unbalanced. And they get Toph, and it's even. And then they get Suki. So
Suki's
3
around
girls, 2 guys, and then they get Zuko, and it's like 3 of each. So it's really... A lot of shows tend to be like, there's 1 girl, and she's the girl character. Yeah. She has eyelashes, but not this one.
No. Yeah, and Suki and Toph, and I also find a lot of time when a show does have multiple girl characters, they're all very similar to each other, and it's like, they could just be one person because they're all the same.
They're all
but
the same.
But Suki and Katara and Toph are all quite different. And have different like motivations and personalities and they're all really interesting.
Yeah, very different. They're all sort of driven by different things.
Yeah. And they're different.
God,
like
I'm thinking about Suki.
God, I love Suki too.
She's
Suki's
so
interesting
good
because she's like, she's not quite as like tough and whatever as like Toph, but like she's very different from Katara at the same time. They don't feel like the same character.
I think her and Katara get along quite well. Like whenever they're together, they seem to be getting along really well. Yeah. But Suki's sort of like, she's first and foremost a warrior. That's like her whole thing. She's like the leader as well. She's this very like she's charge, honorable warrior woman, basically. Like that's her whole thing.
Yeah, and it's interesting because she is part of the main crew in a way. Like she does travel with them for quite a while, and she is there at the final battle. But she also very much has her own life because she's the leader of this warrior tribe, and she definitely has a sort of leader vibe, and she has her own like independence outside of the main crew, and like which is cool, and I love her a lot.
I like that she's basically just in any scene she's in, she's very competent and very smart and very just very a confident, good leader. Like that's her whole characterization basically. It's just good at leading. I love her.
I love her. She doesn't get quite as much character development as the others because she's not in it as much. She's in season. Well, she's introduced really early on because she's in season 1, but then she goes away for a really long time, and then she comes back, and she's in season 3. I don't know. She might be in season 2 like a little bit. But
I think she's like once or twice to meet up with her, but
she's not as much a part of the main crew. Like she's not in it as much, so she doesn't have as much of a character arc. But whenever she is in it, she's very great, and I love her. And I guess her character arc is kind of tied to Sokka's. She's also really interesting in that she also is not a bender, but her attitude towards it is super different from Sokka's because Sokka's very insecure about it.
She just doesn't care,
and she's very she doesn't care. She's very powerful in her because she's a warrior and all this, but has never like been like, oh, like everyone around me is a bender and I would be stronger if I was a bender.
Are there any benders on Kyoshi Island?
I don't think we ever meet one. I think they're all, if they are, it's never like a plot point. It's never like worthy of note. They all fight without bending. And
can really hold their own.
Yeah, they're very strong. They're very renowned for being this like strong warrior group. So that's an interesting, almost like foil to Sokka's character, that she sort of perceives things the opposite way he does.
She's really not in the show that much, but whenever she is, she's so great.
She's so great. She's so good. Also, I'm pretty sure she and Toph kiss at one point.
I can't remember.
Because, like, she saves Toph from drowning, and then Toph thinks it's Sokka, and at that point, Toph kind of has a crush on Sokka, and she, like, kisses him, and then she's like, wait. That's Suki. And it's just such a random, like, thing, but I really enjoyed it.
Suki's just like, no, sorry, hun.
Yeah. They're so cute. Yeah, and all the characters' interactions, like, we could spend forever talking about it, but everyone has different, like, relationships with each other and different, like, it's really good.
Yeah.
It's really, really good.
Really good.
So that's the characters. I can do a couple more questions if you want. My next one, I don't know. I actually don't know what your answer to this is. Do you contribute to this fandom? Do you do any art, fanfic, cosplay, whatever?
Not really. I always want to do cosplay, but I want to do it as a group.
Yes, we should. We should do it. Me and Kaylin were thinking she wants to do Suki, and I was like, I do Sokka. You could do Katara. We could do Suki, Sokka, and Katara.
Yes, we could do that. But yeah, I don't really do. I'm not good at art. I can't art. I do like to do cosplay. I really like to sew. Nice. I like design it and make it.
Nice. You could help me because I'm not that good at it.
I wouldn't say I'm good at sewing, but I really enjoy it. So I love to cosplay.
Nice.
Yeah, that's kind of it. I'm not really in the fandom. I just sort of love it.
Well, that's fair enough. It's good. It's also kind of old. Like, it started... When did it... It ended in, like, 2010, I think. Or 2009.
It ended way earlier than
really?
That. It had its 10-year anniversary a little while ago. Right.
So maybe 2007?
Maybe.
It ended?
Yeah.
Because I watched it in 2010 and it was over already.
Yeah. It's been a while.
So it was in the 2000s. It wasn't from the 90s.
No, definitely 2000s.
It probably only ran for like 2 or 3 years because it's only 3 seasons. But yeah, so the early 2000s. Early mid 2000s.
So it's a little old.
So it is fairly old. There's not like a ton of like new, although they made The Legend of Korra was the sequel series.
Yes.
Which we gotta do a whole other podcast about that. It's that came out in like 2013. No, it was before I was in university, so 2012 to 2014 or something like that. So that was like new content coming out, and they're still making comic books. Yeah. About maybe now they're doing them about Korra instead of Avatar, but still,
yeah, but they make
comic books, so there's been more content because it is very, very famous and popular. Yeah. Even now, it's still very popular. But yeah, there's like less of an active fandom because there's no new content really coming out.
It seems to be, if you talk to anyone about the show, they seem to be like, "Oh, I love that show. It's so good," but there isn't really like people creating actively.
Not as much, just because people create the most stuff when something's currently coming out. Yeah, which totally makes sense. But but it is a pretty like. A lot of people know what it is and have watched it and love it.
Yeah, I think everyone I know, if I talk to them about the show, they either have heard of it and heard good things or they love it.
Yeah, if they haven't watched it, at least most people have heard of it. And it's funny because it came out around the same, well, I guess before, but like a similar time period to when the Blue People Avatar movie came out. So there's always the thing where you say Avatar and you're like, you have to be Avatar the Last Airbender, not Avatar the Blue People. And it's just a funny cultural quirk that these two famous Avatar things happened around the same time. And I once saw a post online talking about the fact that Avatar the Blue People, despite being very, very famous and everyone knows about it, hasn't really lasted as like a thing that lots of people care about anymore. And the post was like, the most lasting thing that Avatar did was to be confused with Avatar the Last Airbender.
I mean, bit of a tangent. I think the Blue People Avatar didn't really last was because it got so much revenue and everyone went to see it because of the 3D.
Yeah.
Because that was like the plot. Brand new cutting. Like we can't take it for granted now. We can go see everything in 3D. But that was like the first movie that
really did
good 3D. Like it was the first real 3D movie ever.
Yeah, it was the technology rather than the plot, and that's why it didn't really stick. And then
tangent,
Avatar the Last Airbender had a movie of which we do not speak.
Oh dear God,
which was so bad.
Oh, my brother and I watched it. We made a big bowl of popcorn. I think we had Twizzlers. We sat down, we watched it every minute, we'd pause it, and we'd look at each other, and we'd just scream about all the bad things that were happening. We got about 40 minutes in, and we got this movie, and we like made popcorn and sat down specifically to rip it apart,
Mm-hmm.
and we couldn't get more than 40 minutes in.
Oh my
That's
God.
how bad it was.
Oh my God. We should try it again, because I've
Oh
never
my God.
watched it.
Not again.
Oh.
Not strong enough.
Yeah, it just took everything
my
about the
gosh.
show and just did it wrong.
Yeah.
It was a terrible
Yeah.
adaptation. I haven't even seen it, but from what I've heard and seen in trailers and people talking about it, I've also heard people say that what it did was, if you had watched the show, it wasn't as good as the show, so you had no reason to watch it. If you had not watched the show, you couldn't understand what was happening because it was too based on the show. So it
Yeah.
didn't appeal to anyone, because it didn't appeal to people who had watched the show or people who hadn't. So it
Yeah.
had no audience. And it was just a bad adaptation.
Bad special effects.
Yeah, and they changed dumb things, like they changed the
Name
way characters'
pronunciation.
names were pronounced. The show is an audio medium. You can hear
You
the
know
names.
how it's
Why would you
pronounced.
change it?
The one thing that got me was they changed how a lot of bending worked, like the rules of bending. They made firebending more powerful and earthbending less powerful.
But didn't they also make
Which is
firebending
weird.
that you had to have fire?
Oh no, yeah, that's what it was.
Because in the cartoon, with things like water and earth, you have to have water and earth with you.
Mm-hmm.
But fire, and I think the concept of the reason why you don't have to have fire is that fire is like a reaction. And so the firebenders
Yeah.
can create the reaction of making fire
Mm-hmm.
rather than it being a substance. Because fire is not really a substance the way like
Yeah.
water and earth are. It's a reaction. So they can create the reaction. It makes sense. Whereas you couldn't really create the reaction of water because water is a
Yeah.
substance.
Mhm.
And then air, technically you
I
need to
mean,
have air, but air's everywhere. So
yeah, if you don't have
unless
air,
we were
you're
in
kinda
space,
screwed.
there's no space in Avatar.
Mm-hmm.
So the rules in the cartoon made sense. But like in the movie, for some reason they were like, no,
You
they
have
have
to
to
have
have
fire.
fire. So like firebenders just have like a lot of candles with them. Like
Yeah, it was a lot of things they just did, and it was kind of like, why though? Like, what did that?
Like, why did you need to change that? And then they also did the thing where, like we said at the beginning, each of the nations is very much based on a real life culture.
Yes.
It would make a lot of sense to cast a Nepalese or like
Yes.
Tibetan person as Aang, and to cast a Inuit actors as Katara and Sokka, and like a Japanese actor as all the Fire Nation, and et cetera, because they're clearly based on real cultures. They didn't do that. They cast all white people except the Fire Nation, which were like
Who were
all
all
Indian.
Japanese.
I
Yeah.
believe Indian.
which is kind of
is like random. It's
little-
like why did these were based on real cultures? Why did what?
yeah.
So it was like, it could have maybe been a good movie, but as far as I can tell, it was not. But thankfully they didn't make a 2 and a 3, which they were going to do based on the second and third seasons. I also remember hearing that originally in the movie, the Kyoshi Warriors were going to be in it, but then the director liked the Kyoshi Warriors so much that they were in all the scenes that he was like, they're in it too much, so he cut them out completely. Like, what? Anyways,
you messed up, dude.
no one likes the movie.
No
I'm
one likes
sorry.
it ever.
M. Night Shyamalan, I'm
Don't
sure
be. He's bad.
you tried, but it didn't work out. But the show is beautiful and wonderful, so just watch the show.
Yeah.
It's an amazing show. It's probably, I would say, my favorite cartoon of all time. I love a lot of cartoons, but I think if I had to pick the one I love the most and have seen the most times and think is the most beautiful, the Avatar.
Yeah.
I would say. Okay. Maybe one more question before we wrap up, because we have about 10 minutes left. Do you have a favorite fandom in-joke? Like a joke about the characters or about the story or something?
I do love the ever prevalent honor.
Yes,
jokes.
Suzuko honor jokes. I like that they make that joke in the show, because one of the final episodes, just before like the final battle, is the characters go see a play about themselves.
Yeah.
Which was such
Strange.
a good meta thing, and they joke about the whole Zuko being obsessed with honor, and it was such a good episode to like just before the final battle, almost
It's
like
so light.
like recap the show, but in a funny way while also acknowledging all kinds of jokes.
Yeah,
it was
it's
so
real
good.
good.
It was so satisfying. As someone, like, it was just such a good nod to the fandom, a good way to wrap everything up. But yeah, the honor joke is good.
Yeah, it's good.
What other jokes are there?
That's kind of coming to anything about T, I guess.
Oh yes, we never even mentioned him, but Zuko has an uncle named Iroh who is also a fantastic character, and he really, really loves tea.
Yeah, he's great.
And very passionate about tea. So there's a lot of jokes about tea. It's just hot leaf juice. I guess we answered that quickly, so we can do another one. So this question is, well, it was, do you have any theories about what's going to happen next?
Well,
but since it's already over, the question has been changed to, did you have any theories while you were watching it? Like things you thought were going to happen that didn't happen, or did happen that you were like, you predicted?
Not
or that you wanted to happen or
really.
something.
I watched it really quick. Like, that's all I did for like 3 days.
Yeah.
Just watch the show.
Same.
I'm
trying to remember. I feel like there were things.
I feel like there are a lot of things I definitely weren't expecting.
Yeah, there's a very good amount of plot twists.
Of twists and just things that I was kind of like, wow.
Yeah. It's a very good plot. It is a solid plot with ups and downs and surprises.
I guess it's not really this question, but it's a little related. I think watching it as I'm older now, it's been 7 years since I first watched it.
Yeah. Now I want to rewatch it.
I want to rewatch it. But looking back kind of as an adult,
we're so old.
kind of, they're just so young.
Yeah.
Like, I was 13, and Katara's my favorite character. She's 14 in the show, and I remember thinking, oh, she's so mature. She's so grown up. And now I'm just like, you're all children. Yeah. This is horrifying. How could this happen to you?
Yeah. That's it's such an interesting thing to look at kids' media as
when
an
you're
adult.
An adult. Yeah.
And, like, I think shows and books and things for kids are so much more interesting than ones for adults, because I think this exact same plot with adults would not be half as interesting.
It would be so gritty, right? It would be all about, like, genocide, gray morality, and, like, no one's good. It would be so bad with adults.
Having it with kids, like, if people are like, oh, making a show about kids makes it, like, less serious and you can't explore the darker things, but I'm like, I think you can explore darker things in a much more interesting way, because I think when you're just gritty for the sake of being gritty and everything is, like, it doesn't have as much impact as when you're like, these kids are repressing and not knowing how to deal with and being too young to understand so much terrible thing, and that just makes it so much more interesting than just being like, well, bad stuff happened to these adults and they're sad. But yeah, they're so young, and it's like...
Yeah, looking back at the show, it's kind of like, it gets better with age.
Yeah. And it also is just, like, more proof that, like, kids are so much smarter than you give them credit for, and like, when I was that age, and I was watching those shows, I was like, these kids are so relatable, and now when I look at a 13-year-old, I'm like, oh, they're so little, but it's like, when I was 13, I found these characters doing amazing things relatable. Like, I was an intelligent kid when I was 13, like, you know, I don't know. I think people don't give kids enough credit.
Yeah.
And shows like this remind me that, like, kids are cool.
I love watching, like, kids shows. They're good.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just fun in a way that grown-up movies really aren't.
I know.
A lot
they're
of the
just
time.
Genuinely so good. I feel like there's something on the tip of my tongue that I definitely, like, thought. Like, something about, like, Azula or something that I was like, oh, I think that's what's gonna happen, and then it totally wasn't. But now I don't remember. Sorry, young me had theories. I don't remember them. It's been a while.
I know until they put out the comic books and explained what happened to Zuko's mom, there were a lot of theories just in the fandom. Like, everybody kind of was like, what happened to his mom? Because it's never addressed in the show. Yeah. It's addressed after in the, like, tie-in comics, but in the show it's just like, his mom was just like, went? Well, and it's implied that she's alive, and his dad, like, kicked her out. Yeah. But it's never really discussed.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because they were going to make a movie about it, like, after the show ended, and then Nickelodeon, like, didn't want the movie, so then they just made a comic, which is highly disappointing, because that would have been an amazing movie. It would have been a good movie. Like, it was a good comic, but it would have been a great movie.
That's, like, the one... Okay. If we're getting into, like, after the canon theories and what I would want to happen, I would want Iroh to be Fire Lord for a year, and, like, to just take over, like, smooth everything over, and for Zuko to go off and find his mom with the gang, and they have, like, a soul-searching journey together for, like, just a year of, like, what are we gonna do now? That would be, like, my ideal fourth season. That would be
so good, yes.
My ideal fourth season would just be there and hanging out.
Yes.
Just, like, looking for his mom and, like, having personal discoveries.
That would be so good. They could all have their personal bonding moments with Zuko.
Because the whole show, like, they're kids, and they're, like, having fun a lot of the time. They're on this cool adventure, but it's they have a lot to worry about, and if they just kind of had a cool adventure with all that pressure gone, like, that would be just so good for them.
I want them to be happy. That's what fan fiction is for. Let your kids have fun adventures. They deserve it. And then there's The Legend of Korra, which they're in a little bit, kind of, because it's them when they're older, because it's like 70-ish years in the future. So, like, Katara and Zuko are in it as very old people. So is Toph. Sokka and Aang are dead.
Yeah.
Suki is dead? I think.
I don't remember.
I think so.
I don't think
because she's not really in it, so I think she's just assumed to be dead. Because she's, like, not in it. But So they're like minorly, they're like mentioned and stuff.
They're kind of I guess looked up to.
Yeah, because they saved the world essentially. So they're like huge important figures, and like Aang was the Avatar, and Zuko is the Fire Lord, and Toph created a new form of bending, and her daughters, well, one of her daughters like the head of like the police force and stuff. So like they left a legacy, right?
But it's kind of about,
but it's not
really about them.
They're just sort of like in the background, which I actually liked. I thought won't go too much into Legend of Korra, but just one thing that I thought was very good about it was that it wasn't just here's Avatar again.
Yeah,
it was very
different.
much we're using the same universe, we're mentioning the same characters, we're continuing this world, but it is a very different show with a different feel. The characters are a different age, the plot is different, the setting is different. It's a sequel, not a remake. Yeah. Which I thought was good. Because it could have been, because Avatar was so good, if they were like, we just remade it, it would have been so disappointing, right? Yeah. So they made a different show, which I appreciated. But if I had to pick between the two, I think Avatar. Just because Avatar is so good. I think it's so good. It's so like new and novel and genuine. Too. Yeah.
And I always go for fantasy.
Well, Legend of Korra is sort of almost steampunk, and I do love steampunk, but I think Avatar was just so, like, there was nothing like it. Yeah. It was so unique. Like, it was sort of inspired by anime, and it had an anime-esque style, but it wasn't anime, really, because it was a Western thing. Yeah. And it was such a... It was just very much its own unique plot, and it was so good and different. Yeah. Which I appreciated very much. So that's almost an hour. Do you have any sort of, like, a final thought? A final something you want to say about Avatar?
Gosh. I don't know. I think I've kind of touched on everything I love about it.
Everything. I love everything about it.
Everything about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Parting words.
I guess parting notes. I like that it's a very complex show about dark themes and morality while keeping it very light and having really good characters in a unique world. Yeah. Yeah, I just love the whole damn thing.
Yeah. Yes, me too. Yeah. Seconded. So if you have not watched it yet, go watch it. We said a lot of things, but there's a lot of things we haven't spoiled because there's a lot to it. It's very large, expansive. So go watch it if you haven't. And if you have, and you're watching this on, or I guess listening to this on YouTube, you can comment below and let us know if you watched it, if you love it, what your opinion is, because I want to know. And say hi to Lenny. And you can also subscribe to my YouTube channel. I do this podcast monthly, once a month, on the first of the month, talk about a different fandom with a different friend. I will also be linking to the previous episodes. I did one about One Piece, which is an anime that I love, and one about Homestuck, which is a webcomic that I love. And you can like this video, or if you're listening to it on SoundCloud, I think you can follow me on SoundCloud and like it. And just let me know if you enjoyed it. And look forward to the next episode. So thank you so much for listening. And you want to say bye, Lenny?
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.